Hello, welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Coe. I'm delighted to be joined on this fine Monday evening by the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how are you?
Very well, Daniel. Very well. Still coming out the wrong side of this flu thing, but yep, much better, much improved.
We're also joined by Record Sports Michael Gannon. Mick, how are you?
I'm all right. I've no excuse. I look this way even though I'm feeling well. So I can't even see I've got the flu.
What a picture of health, Mick.
Exactly. I'm fine.
There's also a very big game in the Premiership tonight, and that brings me to Record Sports Andy Newport. Andy, live from Ibrox, how are you?
I've got a wee dose of the lurgy myself, so I think this
watch it.
So
It's nasty. It's a nasty one.
It's been trouble.
This sounds like the boys are gearing up for a Christmas off in the sick. Don't even start with you guys.
Laying the foundations.
It's always good to plant that wee seed, Michael. You just need to plant that wee seed.
This is the equivalent of getting a suspension, get a yellow card over Christmas, see red card.
Sorry, Michael, I don't think I'm going to make it in tomorrow the way I'm feeling.
Sitting on 5 bookings at Christmas, aye.
Andy, you're obviously there ahead of Rangers against Hibs tonight, a really big game, as I say, and we'll come to that in a moment. We'll also pour over the aftermath from Hampden yesterday, where I know you were, Mick. But Keith, a Scotland exclusive to kick us off.
Yeah, well, certainly breaking. Online just now, Record Sport. There's well, I certainly think it's an interesting story. Steve Clarke, I understand, is going to reach out to the advisors, agents of Harvey Barnes of Newcastle to have a discussion early in the new year, I think, about whether or not Harvey Barnes wants to commit his future to Scotland and wants to come and head up our attack at the World Cup. It's a significant move because there's obviously been talk of it for a while, but it kind of went stale. It was almost like a stalemate. It was like Steve Clarke wasn't going to, bang on Harvey Barnes' door. Harvey Barnes was probably keeping, I don't know, his options open. But it's now make up your mind time. And I think that Steve Clarke, it will be his intention to open this discussion with Harvey Barnes' advisors at some point in the new year to get an idea for if this is something he wants to do, if he wants to join up with the Scotland squad. It'll need to be a bit of a heart-to-heart, you would imagine. And in terms of my personal opinion on it, Dan, I think previously I said off you pop, Harvey. I might have changed position on that slightly now that we've all kind of calmed down a wee bit after Denmark. And when I say I might have changed position, that could be otherwise described as a complete reverse ferret. I'm all over this. I'm all over this. If Harvey Barnes wants to be a part of this and he wants to join up with the squad, and there's a reason that I'm all over it as well, is that Steve Clarke confirmed it when we were down at Seamill today, seeing the Scotland manager, and he's confirmed that FIFA have confirmed it'll be a 26-strong squad. So there is room, there is wriggle room. It's not going to be a case of one in, one out, and one of the guys that's tried and tested and done all the hard yards for Steve Clarke in Scotland would then miss out on a ticket to the States. Not the case. There is that extra bit of wriggle room. There is a place there waiting for Harvey Barnes. And by the way, every time you're turning on the TV, looking down south, I think he scored 4 goals in this season's Champions League for Newcastle. He scored 2 against Man City when Newcastle beat them the other week. He's on fire. So, yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
We've got plenty of comments coming in on this already, and if you're watching at home, you want to get involved in the chat, please do so in the comments. You're loading them up. It says, get him in the squad ASAP. We need every chance of results in the USA. Harry Duncan says, get him in ASAP. Rebel says, totally sensible move. We're not blessed with striking talent. Scott simply says, get Barnesy in. Mick, Andy, I think the thing Keith says there, that no one's going to have to be sacrificed, for want of a better word, makes a really big difference. It kind of feels, to me anyway, like a no-brainer.
I think that's key, because I wrote a piece in the paper. We were asked to do a sort of for and against, myself and Scott McDermott, and I sort of took the against stance on the basis that I thought it'd be really harsh to have guys that had done so much during the campaign to get us to North America that they'd have to miss out. Kenny McLean, turns up every camp, gets maybe 10 to 15 minutes per game, but trudges along there every time. make sure he's fit and ready to go, and then obviously scores the wonder goal that gets us there. To see somebody like him miss out, but as Keith says, if it's going to be a 26-man squad, and just, I think you noticed in that Denmark game, especially when Gannon Doak went off, just were a wee bit short in pace, especially in those wider areas. So, listen, if he's committed to the cause, if he really wants to come, if he's not going to use us as sort of leverage to get an England call up, or to try and blackmail Thomas Tuchel into giving him a cap down the road, then yeah, bring him along. If he's really properly committed and he wants to be a Scotland player, then yeah. But I think we have to have those assurances. Steve Clarke's going to have to sit him down, look him in the eye, man to man, and make sure that he's properly up for this, because we can't afford to have passengers here. We need everybody pulling in the one direction.
I tell you, I'm actually quite excited though. See, when you think about it, with as you mentioned there, Mick Gannon Doak, the thought of having young Mick on one side, Harvey Barnes potentially on the other, or Harvey Barnes I think could play through the middle. I just think
I've seen Mick in goals. He's bad enough there. I don't want to see him down in the left wing.
The Gannons have all got tremendous pace.
It's a DNA thing.
His first 5 yards over to the bar are quite quick.
But no, that's exciting, isn't it? If you've got, because we are what we are, and I think we've got a really strong midfield. Defensively, we're robust enough. We've always had that problem in the final third, and then when Gannon Doak comes onto the scene, you think, wow, this boy's a potential game changer. If you could add Harvey Barnes into that as well, then we're actually getting quite nicely tooled up for this, boys, just at the right time.
Mick, does it matter to you that he's not played in any qualifiers? He's only
and has played for England, by the way, as an England cap.
For England, and there's a few people in the comments. Gianni's one saying known Keith Tuchel will name him in the England squad. A couple other people saying, Rebels saying, can you imagine England tapping him if his form continues? Does it matter to you, Mick, that he's not played any qualifiers? As soon as we beat Denmark, all of a sudden all the noise starts again?
Listen, I've got to admit, I was also in the camp. Listen, you've had your chance, and you can't jump the bandwagon now. We've got to the World Cup. But there's a bit of kind of, what it's like, you get a knockback in the dancing, you go, I didn't fancy it anyway. so it goes back around for a second lap, you think, well, actually, but you haven't, right? But I get that, we're all kind of going like that. Well, actually, if you're interested, we're back in the game. So, listen, he's a top quality player. He's a proven English Premier League player. He's 27, and he's peak of his career. Like you say, he's a Champions League performer, doing the business. It would be daft if he is keen. It'd be daft to kind of not consider him. It comes down to commitment. Listen, we could get all kind of Jock Thompson's bairns and go, how Scottish does he feel? And listen, we've been here before with certain other players. We've got one of the best players in the world right now, in Scott McTominay, who is obviously an Anglo. And you look at his response and reaction after Denmark with the family and all that stuff, and it's like, bleeding tartan blood by the end of it. So if he get a bit of that kind of mentality and he taps into his kind of Jock DNA and it feels awakened, then yeah, bring him on board. If it's a bit of a kind of, I might get more money from my boot sponsorship deal, then that would maybe make me think twice. But the only way to find out is if Steve Clarke sits him down, looks in his eyes, and gets that feeling from him. So let's not discount it. Let's not discount it. Let's keep that option open until we know more about what he's thinking.
Let's not forget he did something very similar when we qualified for the Euros in 2020, 2021, the COVID Euros, with Shea Adams. Shea Adams wasn't part of the qualification campaign, but he made himself available for selection. Steve Clarke brought him in. Again, another key performer, another big guy in this squad. And there's so many now, isn't there, that have like big Lyndon Dykes, the most Scottish Australian in history. I mean, I think he's got to be clever in the way he goes about it, and he will be. Steve Clarke's not going to hand this out for like sweetie papers. He's not. He's going to have to get real assurances. He's going to have the conversation. But at the end of the day, guys, we're talking about a striker that cost Newcastle 38 million quid. If he wants to play for Scotland, then I've, as I said, complete reverse ferret on this. I'm having it.
Yeah, can't argue that, can we? If he is, he's top quality. So if he wants to play, then let's get him involved. Aye.
Aye, absolutely. There's plenty of people, as I say in the comments, letting us know their thoughts on Harvey Barnes, Scotland and the World Cup. But in the immediate future, Ibrox tonight, Andy, really big game for Rangers and Hibs. It feels like a really big game for Rangers, this.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, we saw, obviously, through the week in Budapest, I was there with Scott. Rangers really just, again, find themselves out of their depth in Europe. I mean, yeah, it was probably the, you know, in terms of away games they've had, it was the most competitive they've been, but, you know, killer, crucial mistakes at key times. But domestically, I think you've seen Danny Rose been able to get something out of this Rangers team. Obviously, last week's win down at Rugby Park was another huge step in the right direction. Again, not a 90-minute performance by any stretch. You know, there was still a period where Kilmarnock really had the game by the scruff of the neck. But the fact they showed that you know, clinical edge for the first time in a long while, with those 2 goals from Bojan Miovski really lifted the spirits, I think, in the squad. And you know, it's remarkable as it seems, but you know, given how far off it Rangers have been at times this season. But if they can get a result tonight, and if they can somehow go to Tynecastle and get a result on Saturday, then you know, maybe Rangers aren't out this title race just yet. So, I mean, look, there's a lot of ifs in that statement there, but, you know, that's what Danny Rowe's going to have to be saying to his players. You know, if you can, that's the big sell of this week. If you can get 2 wins out of these next 2 games, then it's all to play for. And as you say, head into January, a couple of additions to be made, then, you know, maybe Rangers might have a say in this after all.
That's the problem, though, Andy. As Rangers support, they've not even had time to fully bask in the reflective afterglow of what happened at Hampden on Sunday, and now they've got to go and watch their own team play. What a way to burst the bubble!
Yeah, well, a lot of Rangers fans just doing the old Chick Young thing. Only excuse, just wearing the scarves around to become a Slipword scarf last night. But yeah, I mean, listen, you know, I think we've said it before that, you know, for the likes of Hearts, even for Hibs, you know, I mean, like there's never been a better time to be trying to target Old Firm and finish above them. You know, Hibs will have their own ambitions tonight, and you know, getting maybe third, and who knows, second might be one for them. You know, if they can get a result here, that I think David Gray will be definitely looking for a better performance than his side has managed in his 2 previous encounters with Rangers this season. They've been really powder puff. The game here, when you know Russell Martin could barely buy a win, Hibs really sort of handed one in a plate, and then obviously Danny Rowe taking charge at Easter Road. You know, Danilo gets the goal and a big save from Jack Butland right at the end. You know, I think right now Rangers would wish they could play Hibs every week. I'm sure the Hibs fans coming through here will hope that pattern changes. But yeah, it's a big game for both sides, definitely.
If Hibs win at Ibrox tonight, they can actually leapfrog Rangers on the table, albeit they'll play the game more. Keith, do you fancy Hibs to get a result at Ibrox?
Yeah, I do actually. I don't know if they'll get a win, and I also will qualify that by saying that Hibs do seem to have a mental block when it comes down to playing games against Rangers. They just when you think they're catching a bit of form, they're hitting their stride, they'll come up in a game against Rangers and lose it invariably. But even with that track record, I just don't fancy Rangers at all. I think the pressure transfers and flips onto Rangers for all the reasons. I know we're having a laugh about it, but there will be Rangers fans that go there with their tails up tonight because Celtic are in a real kind of crisis mode across the city. Rangers fans will go there. They'll, like Andy's just saying, it gives them a real opportunity. If this Celtic thing gets much worse, if they lose games, if this guy Nancy can't turn them and pull them out of this tailspin, what an opportunity for Rangers. But that involves Rangers having to look after Rangers' business. And they've been largely incapable of doing that throughout the course of this season. Defensive frailties are obvious. And this is a decent Hibs side. And if Hibs put on the sort of performance that they would expect of themselves, then I could see them getting something. I actually tipped a 1-1 draw. I just don't have much confidence in Rangers being able to take care of their own business right now.
There's a lot of people in the comments, Andy, asking about Bojan Miovski. I know we might be a little bit early for team news. Kenneth White asks, is Bojan Miovski injured or is he fit? Can you shed any light for us?
Not yet. I've not even seen the players out. Have a look at the pitch yet since I've come in. But obviously, I was in Budapest last week. We had a phone call on Friday morning with Danny Rowe, just a wee preview ahead of this game. So that was the last time I spoke with the Rangers manager. We asked him then how it was going to be, and he said basically it was going to be sort of touch and go over the weekend. There was checks to be done over the weekend. He said it was a kick, so he certainly didn't think it was going to be any sort of long-term injury, but it was just whether or not whether swelling or pain he was suffering would calm down before tonight. Listen, Rangers will be desperate for him to play, because you've seen just what a difference it made to this team to have a proper clinical finisher at the top end of the pitch, down at Kilmarnock, and then even across in Hungary in midweek. I mean, he's taken his 3 goals in those 2 games fantastically well, and that's what this Rangers team's been crying out for, just somebody that they can rely upon at the top end of the pitch. They don't score enough goals, they concede too many, but at least if you get somebody contribute at the top end, it can at least sort of offset some of the mistakes that they're still making defensively. So they'll be desperate for him to pull through. I mean, and really, he's the only one they've got, because, as we've spoken about a million times, Yusuf Chermiti, competition winner, most expensive competition winner in history, it looks like. I mean, he's nowhere near it. Danilo, I mean, we spoke to him in the mix zone after the game, and he's kind of hoping that he'll have something similar to Majowski, if he can just get 1 goal that provides a spark. But again, he's been here a long time, and I've said before, this is Rangers now having to go back to guys that they've tried and have failed to hit the required standard, and hope that they somehow come good again. So, listen, Majowski is taking a while to settle, but I think he spoke about himself, just that once you get a run of games, I think it's crucial for a striker. Once you can find your rhythm, then you can quickly, 1 goal can turn into a handful, can turn into double figures. So that's why Danny Rowe will be so hopeful, so keen that he pulls through. And
before we let you go, Andy, predictions, how do you think the game will go tonight?
I tipped a 1-0 win, just on the basis Keith's talking there. I think a 1-0 win for Rangers, sorry. Just on the basis, I think Hibs, the record against Rangers of late has been really, really poor, and I think the games they've come up against them this season, they've absolutely had, as Keith says, some sort of mental block. They've just totally failed to hit the required standard, and I think if they do that again, Rangers, if Majowski's fit, that is, should have the firepower to get a win. It might be narrow, it might not be the prettiest thing, but I still think with the Rangers at home, they should have enough to get the result and tee up a huge game against Hearts at the weekend.
Absolutely. I'm sure Andy will be pestering you for your take on that game before it comes around, but tonight, I hope it's an absolute cracker for you.
Cheers, boys.
Thanks for coming on, Andy. Much appreciated. The one and only Andy Newport there, all the way from Ibrox. I've got a feeling that will be a cracker tonight, but we need to talk about yesterday. And Mick, I know you were in attendance at Hampden. Surprise, surprise, Wilfred Nancy is the subject that we're probably going to talk about. Should we hear a little bit from the Celtic manager before we go any further?
Yes, let's do that, Dan.
Why not?
I really like the first half regarding the way we attacked the box. We had many opportunities. I think that we scored 1 goal, but we could have scored more goals. We were in control of the game. Regarding the way we penetrated the box. And I like also the structure that we had regarding the way we attack. We were able to attack on the side. We were able to attack through the middle. So this is the direction. Sorry, this is exactly something that I want them to do again. And after that, we started the second half. The first 5 minutes, we didn't control the ball, take care of the ball. We started to play long ball, throw in, and so on. So that's why I was a bit frustrating, because I wanted them to keep doing what they did in the first half. I wanted them to be confident. I wanted to give them confidence, and after that, the second goal that we conceded, this is something that it concerned me a bit, because we were in control of the game. We know that they can be good on counter-attack, but we did a kind of ping-pong game. We had the ball, we lost the ball. We had the ball, we lost the ball. And this is this moment that I want my player to be more confident, to have more belief on themselves. Because when we are able to take care a little bit more of the ball, with the desire to go forward and the desire to stay calm, so we are really good. And this is a bit my concern with my players. This is the discussion that I had with them, that they fight, they compete, but now sometimes we put ourselves in a situation when we play that this is almost impossible to keep connected, and this is something that I want them to be aware of, and I know that when they are able to be connected, it could be really interesting. So this is a bit the work that I have to do with them to give them this confidence and to avoid the self-doubt that I can have when things doesn't go the way we want in terms of a result. Because I want to do well. And after that, we want to win games. And again, I like to tell them that to stay focused on the task. We have to go beyond winning. We want to obviously win this final. But to win this final, we didn't win it because we conceded goals, and also the second half we didn't connect a bit like the first half in a final third, and this is things that is clear that we need to work on. And I know where we are now. I know where we want to go, but on this one, this is something that we miss a little bit, but we're gonna be able to connect. No, not at all. Because to be honest with you, we had really good performance first half against Earth, second half against Roma, and first half today. So I don't think that this is, again, I'm questioning everything in terms this is my job. Here, in the past, and so on, this is our job to all the time try to find solutions. But I don't see it like that. The structure that we had was really interesting. We were able to go wide, we were able to go through the middle, and we were able to attack the box. But after that, this is taking care of the ball. So, and this is the only way for us to maximize our chance to do better.
We can try and get a result.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And again, I know that I told them before the final that they deserve to have good results, because I know that I came in and it was not easy for them in terms of change. They had to adapt regarding certain things, and the engagement that they have is really, they are really engaged. So there is no doubt with that. But now this is more about the what I ask individually. And so recognize when we have time on the ball to go to attack the box, recognize when instead of playing the long ball, can we play, recognize instead of playing back, can we play forward. This is more about the connection between 1, 2, 3 players. And because again, the way we occupy the pitch today was really interesting.
In the comments, Marzuno says Cal McGregor is...
What was that look for, Daniel?
Didn't realise the camera was going to come back to me so quickly. Apologies. Callum McGregor is giving should we vibes when listening to Nancy. Chris says, I really hope Celtic lose on Wednesday to get him out of our club. And John says, how many more losses or tactical disaster classes for the board have no choice but to do something? Mick, after hearing Wilfried Nancy talk for 4 minutes there, are you any clearer on his strategies or tactics going forward?
No, but listen, see, when you lost 3 games in the bounce, it doesn't matter what you say. You're going to get pelters. That's the nature of the beast. If you're winning 3 games in the bounce, you can sit and read the phone book out, and nobody cares. So it's all about actions rather than words, especially right now for Wilfried Nancy after 3 defeats and 3 poor defeats. I mean, listen, he's talking about attacking and liking some of the stuff going forward. They've lost 8 goals in 3 games, 8 goals in a week, including, I mean, the first time they lost a cup final by more than 2 goals since the early 70s. I think it was by Thistle in the 1971 or something like that. So that there is work to be done to make this team more secure, because they're not secure. The formation changes has confused, it has disrupted, and it's made Celtic very easy to play against. And the very first job is to make Celtic more difficult to play against, and that is something it's hard not to do the contrast with Martin O'Neill. But the thing he recognised was that there is limitations to this squad. There is gaps in the team. There's injuries to key men and failures in the transfer market. Therefore, what is the best way? And the phrase that Nancy said there, I thought is a bit of concern when he said it's the only way to maximise the way to play better. Well, that's clearly not the case, because the previous interim manager maximised the way to get them to play better and got 7 wins out of 8. Wasn't perfect, wasn't great at times, wasn't probably sustainable over the longer term, but it did maximise what they had at that point in time. And I still think that, listen, you've got to give the guy a chance to implement his own ideas. I get that. And he needs a bit of patience and he needs a window at least. However, he's also got to get results in the meantime by getting the best out of what he's got. And that's not what's happened this week. He's tried to implement his own playing style on a squad that is blatantly obvious can't do it, or haven't got the players to do it. And it's made it look a bit ramshackle. So rather than making life easy for himself by saying, right, let's what have I got and what can I do and what can I work within, he's gone another way about it, and it's disrupted the very fragile stability they had is out the window, and now Celtic look anything but fragile. Look anything but stable. Look really fragile, and it doesn't get any easier because they've got Dundee United who are biting and scratching for results right now. They've got Aberdeen who are resurgent. They've got Motherwell away who are having a fantastic season, and they've got Rangers and obviously Livingston in there as well who haven't been great, but they're always going to give you a game. So he's got a tough run of fixtures. It's not going to get any easier. At this point in time, you've got to be honest. See, this starting point, he's a dead man walking already because of this start. So he's now almost week to week from now, because it's every bad result is going to have intensifying the pressure. So at some point, he's going to have to take a step back and think, what have I got here? How do I get? I need to fight a fire and get results. Whether that's right or wrong, but that's the pressure that comes with this with the job. He's got off to a really ropey start. A lot of it not his fault. A lot of it structural and problems he's inherited, but he's not helped himself either. So now he's firefighting and having to get results and quickly. So it's a really difficult period for him.
In the comments, Keith, this one here from Bob, he echoes your sentiment, Mick, saying what the Celtic fans are missing is that the performance under Blessed Martin were hardly sparkling, notwithstanding he predominantly brought wins. Do you get the feeling, Keith, there's any chance that Wilfred Nancy will change his approach? Because at the minute,
no,
the chance of them getting a result at Tannadice on Wednesday with that approach feels quite slim to me.
I don't, and it's obvious why. Because the easy thing to do, the correct thing to do, would have been to not throw the baby out with the bathwater. To understand that in a very difficult period of the season, Martin O'Neill had got a formula together that enabled Celtic, or certainly bettered their chances of winning games of football. But his system came first. He put his system, his principles, his philosophy, if you like, if that's the words that we want to use, that's what came first. So that tells me about his character, and it tells me about how he's likely to proceed in the job. Now, I think Mick's absolutely right. I think the kind of clever thing to do, if you were coming in, if you're getting shoehorned into this season as he has been asked to do, you probably ask yourself one question: what would Martin have done? That would seem like the good question to ask. I think he maybe has done that, but he's asked, what would Russell Martin have done?
Sorry, I wasn't expecting that at all.
Well, but I mean, seriously, and we said yesterday after the game itself, he went to Tony Ralston, and he puts Tony Ralston into that starting 11. And I think the majority of Celtic fans have gone, woof, thank God. It's not because they're overly delighted to see Tony Ralston. I'm not saying anything against Tony Ralston. A good, steady hitter for Celtic. But I think the kind of misconception right away was, he's gone to 4.
I thought that.
I think everybody thought would probably be the better way to tactically try and keep St Mirren out. But he didn't. And by putting Tony Ralston, a right back, and at right centre half, it then triggered a domino chain reaction of other guys that had to play out of position in order to fulfill his vision or his principle or his philosophy on how the game should be played. Now, this isn't a particularly, and I think we're all agreed, particularly talented group of Celtic players by Celtic standards. So they're having a hard enough time just playing well in their own natural positions, never mind 4 or 5 of them getting taken out of where they would naturally play in order to allow this system to come together that Wilfred Nancy is trying to impose on them. You saw the reaction on the pitch. You saw Wilfred Nancy jumping up and down to get Cal McGregor to come to the sidelines. You saw Cal McGregor then running onto the pitch, speaking to about 4 or 5 of his teammates, and not one of them had a look in their face that said to me, I understand what he's wanting here. It was the opposite. They looked as if they were having, as I said at the time, it was like a conference call. halfway inside their own half during the cup final to try and work out what to do. And I also didn't like the stuff in it. And if you were in charge of PR, see, before Wilfred Nosey sat down in that press conference situation at Hampden, you would sit him down and say, well, here's a good idea, big man. Tell you what not to say. Don't say that there was stuff out there that you liked to see, because that will not land well with our Celtic support who are looking at this through the cracks in their fingers. You cannot say there was stuff in there that was good, that you liked. Even if, and we did say, I said yesterday, Mike, I felt for about 20 minutes in that first half, the last 20 minutes of the first half, it was probably starting to look a little bit more like what he's got in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But even though that does involve getting a lot of bodies forward and centre halves overlapping fullbacks to get into wide positions and all this, and balls into the box, I get all that, but it's screaming alarm bells at the back, because you're wide open. It's a barn doors philosophy at the back, and everybody that has any knowledge of the way St Mirren play the game knew right away that they were just going to absolutely relish playing against that, and they could get the big guys up front, Ayunga and Lindelof, get them up there, be a handful, be physical, ruffle Celtic's feathers as what little feathers that they had at the back, make it really uncomfortable, and it just played right into their hands. And I don't think you need to be a football student to understand any of that. It's basics. It's real basic stuff. And Jim Goodwin standing on the TV gantry watching this, and he's working out in his own head exactly what formula he'll use, and it'll be very similar to what Hearts did. Give up the wide areas, defend your penalty box, hit them on the break. And yeah, Celtic are going to Tannadice like an accident waiting to happen.
I can't really disagree with that. Like,
I must admit, I mean, it was interesting seeing Martin O'Neill reappearing this morning back in his old day job on the radio. And I don't think he's done the manager any favours either, really. I mean, not intentionally. I mean, you know what Martin O'Neill's like. He's always good intentions, and he was trying to be diplomatic. But revealing that he only had a 15-minute conversation with the new man, having stayed around an extra day to kind of welcome him out in the building, which he didn't have to do. He's already on overtime at the club by about 3 weeks. To then only have 15 minutes with him, I thought was a concerning thing to say. And then also him saying he would have stuck around for the rest of the season didn't do the new guy any favours as well, because there's now if an emergency break glass with Martin O'Neill behind it. So that's not helped. Not really helped. He's been honest and he's been sincere, but I don't think that helped the new man either. But in terms of speaking to Martin, I think that's a wasted opportunity for Wilfred Nosey. And I appreciate he's his own man. Listen, managers have got egos the size of Africa. I mean, they're huge. I mean, they're continental egos. So they do believe themselves, and they won't. That's what makes them managers, right? But I still think it would have been helpful to sit down for a couple of hours over a coffee and go through what's been happening. Why are you playing this way? Because Martin O'Neill played that way, not because he wanted to, because he had to. So what has been going on? Who can I trust? At that point, he walks out that hour coffee meeting with Martin O'Neill. Then he picks the 4 or 5 most influential players in the dressing room. Callum McGregor, Kasper Schmeichel, Liam Scales, Kieran Tierney, Carter Vickers and Johnson, who are kicking about and injured. And you sit them down and you make them your best pals. You make them your best pals. Yeah, you pick their brains and you talk to them and you figure out what's going on. These are the leadership group of the club who were successful, have been successful for years. Sit them down, talk to them, find out what's going right and what's going wrong, because you'll get honest answers back from them. Who can I trust? Get those guys in right away. Unfortunately for Wilfred Nosey, he's having these conversations on the pitch when all hell's breaking loose. Kieran Tierney coming pulled over, Callum McGregor pulled over. And I'm sure he's talking to them behind the scenes as well, right? But it's not great when you're having to do these things on the pitch. So I think he's made it difficult for himself by not doing these things. And he's up against it now. But no,
how do you feel, Mick, about the stuff? Because this is, and I'm a little bit worried that it develops into a pattern, because this doesn't play well either in terms of press conferences and messaging, public messaging. It's 3 or 4 in the first 3 games. Now he's come out, and I'm not saying he's throwing the players under a bus, but he kind of is.
No, I think it's the other side. But he can't.
But he's talking about the players lacking belief. This is a Celtic side that's swept the board up here for years. They lack belief. They lack the confidence to keep hold of the ball. They started going long, and that was almost, to me, an implied reference to them not doing as he was telling them to do in the second half. They started going long. They started taking long throws. It's all pushed onto the players, and there's not one single bit yet of humility from him to say, guys, I might have got that wrong. I probably didn't help matters today. Well, it's all on the players, Mick. All the messaging, the subliminal messaging is all directed at the players. My system's great. They're just not doing it the way I want them to do.
Which is strange because I was there on Friday, the pre-match, and he did say, he kind of said things like, maybe I rushed it and after talking to the players, and I thought that sounded to me like he was taking a step back.
And he threw in the word pragmatism into that press conference as well, and I thought, oh, good, pennies dropping. Yeah,
and they see a team sheet, think, well, he has listened and thinking that's the way to go about it. Because this is a team that's played a certain way under two managers, by and large, pretty much the same way under Postecoglou and under Ben Rodgers. Wee tweaks here and there. Rodgers kind of continued with the kind of the inverted fullback thing with Greg Taylor because it worked so well under Ange. So it was pretty much the same way of playing for 4 seasons, 4.5, 5 seasons. Well, it's 4.5 seasons. So to change it so radically, so quickly at a time, if it had been June, 4 weeks of pre-season, that's fair enough. You can time to nail it down and get the players in during the window to fit your system, but not when you parachute in the first week in December when you're up against 3 biggest games of the season. It's just too difficult, and it's proved to be too difficult. So there have to be a step back, because as I say that listen, we know this Celtic squad's lacking. It's obvious it's lacking, right? But there's still quality in that squad, and you've got to say man for man. Well, put it this way: if Stephen Robinson was in charge of that Celtic squad, who would have won the cup final on Sunday? So therefore, it is an issue. Listen, know the answer because we saw it.
Yeah,
we saw it with much less resources. It won the game comfortably. So there's something not quite adding up. They want myself to. They need to get through this period because the games are coming thick and fast, and the manager's put himself behind the 8 ball already, and he'll have to take a step back and look at what he's got and play a certain way. And listen, I know we're saying these guys have been through the course and won a lot. They have, but they're missing a lot of the guys who did that. A lot of big characters: Carter Vickers, Johnson, Jota. Kyogo's been sold, Ida was sold, Kuhn was sold. So that they are down to the kind of the reserve guys and that. I mean, I know someone saying last week, 8 of the guys against Hearts were in the squad last season. Yeah, in the squad, they might not have been playing every single week and been relied on every single week. So as a much weakened the team, it's been the rot set in from January. So they've lost 15 games this calendar year. They lost 2 in the whole of 2024.
That's astonishing.
This is a pattern that's been coming all season. This has been a slow-moving car crash. It's now reached the kind of end point, the buffer zone, and it's happened to be under the new manager who's maybe expedited it slightly because of his trying to make too many quick changes. And the question is now for them: how do they get out of this? How do they change it round? And it's a big question because the personnel's not changing for 3 or 4 weeks, and that's if they get a move on and get signings in the door. If there's 3 or 4 guys lined up for the first week in January, is that going to happen? Where's the evidence to suggest it will? Because it's not been happening so far. So the recruitment department is going to have to be light speed, which I haven't done for the last 2 or 3 windows. So he needs help, he needs time, and it looks like he's got neither. He also needs some leadership from the top of the club as well, because that's a guy who was unveiled on his own.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy who did no CEO next to him, no chairman, no head of football operations, unveiled on his own. So nobody telling him what the vision is, what the long-term plan is. No one's saying, here's what we're going to do in January. No one's saying, listen, this guy's going to get back. No matter what happens in the next 3, 4, 5 weeks, it might be bumpy, but we believe in this system. So hold on to your hats and stick with us because this guy is going to be something special, which might be the case. But nobody's saying that. Nobody is coming out and explaining that to supporters. And then they wonder why supporters are angry because they're not getting. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The manager's sitting there on his own, and he's now having to face press 3 and 4 times a week for the next 3 weeks. So people are talking about what he's saying and what he's in these press conferences, but he's the one who's having to answer all the questions. The same as Martin Neal had to answer all the questions for 6 weeks when the manager search was going on. It's not good enough. Yep. There has to be leadership from the top and backing the guy and telling people, just calm down, he'll get it right because we know why. This is why we gave him the job. We knew it was going to be a period of transition, but stick with him, and it's going to be X, Y, and Z. But it's not. That's not forthcoming. So he's exposed.
But we knew that, Mick. We knew that, didn't we? The Celtic have got a chief executive who's cutting about in a cloak of invisibility. He is the invisible man. He was never going to, and you and I discussed it even the night before Nancy's presentation at Lennoxtown, and I said to you, there is no chance that Michael Nicholson will be sitting beside him at the top table. So he is on his own. The question, I think, is, Mick, now, to Celtic's board, look at this. I personally believe they will feel inclined they need to back him as best they possibly can in the January transfer window, which means that you would imagine Wilfred Nancy will buy players again that will fit into his system more naturally than some of the guys that are there right now. But if you've got real reservations and doubts about whether or not this guy's here for the long haul, do you really let him go and spend a bunch of money in January designed around his philosophy and his way of playing football if you're actually thinking already we might be looking at another manager for next season?
Yeah.
Is that where Celtic are with this? And how do you get round that? How do you square that circle?
By telling people what the thinking is, because listen, the Celtic board must have known that it was going to be a bumpy start. I mean, no matter when he started, because if you're bringing a manager who has this fixed ideology and how to play, to change that doesn't happen overnight. So there's always going to be a bumpy start. A bit like when Ange Postecoglou took charge, had 5 weeks of pre-season and still had a bumpy start. And also why Ange Postecoglou struggled at Nottingham Forest, trying to change it mid-season, and he gets 8 games and he's out on his backside because they don't have the patience to stick with it. So it was always going to be a bumpy start. So they obviously believe in this guy and the term in the future, and they're going to have to back him in January. But I'm assuming that Paul Tisdale, when he's recommending this manager, he's the one with the football knowledge. He's an ex-manager himself, ex-football consultant. Yeah. But he's the one that has the guy who has the football knowledge. Apparently, he should be saying, "Listen, this guy is going to be top notch, but you're going to need to ride it out for a bit at the start because it is going to be a period of change." And it could get a bit ropey for a while, a bit like it was with Postecoglou in the early days. What happened with Postecoglou, which is different though, is even those he lost his first 3 away games, the home games, there was plenty of evidence to see that the work in pre-season had taken hold. Yeah. I mean, they won 6-0 back-to-back home games in that period as well. So people go, oh, he lost 3 at 6. Yeah, but he won 2 home games by 6 clear goals, and people are going, wow, this football is going to be fun and games. Yeah, so it bought him a bit of time. Unfortunately for Nancy, his first 3 games are 2 home games when they've lost and a cup final. So it's a different ball game. But it's going to be could be a painful process. But somebody has to be in a position of power, has got to say, listen, be patient because this is going to work. But is it going to work? We don't know. It's a complete semi-unknown. But he's off to it. I mean, he's tripped over the starting line and now he's going to be up against it. And some fans are going to it's going to be a heck of a job to win them back over. And crucially, does he win the squad over? Because if you don't win games, players lose faith in this as well. So he's got to win games to get that buy-in from the squad. I think they have tried. I don't think they're not trying for this new manager. I just think they're confused at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think they're looking at it, Mick, saying what you're doing to us is making us worse. You're making us less able to win games of football. And when players feel like that about the guy that's making the decisions, that's a terrible position to be in for all parties.
That's what I'm saying. They've got to buy in.
And you're absolutely right, Mick. And Martin O'Neill said it, I think, in his interview today. Do you know the secret? Do you know what the secret is? Win games. Win games. Never mind systems, never mind philosophies, especially when you're trying to bed in, especially when you're trying to win over a support that was head over heels in love with the interim guy there. Just win games. Find the system that works the best with the group of players that you've got that enables you to win more games than not. But he's contrived a system which makes Celtic easier to play against, easier to score goals against. And that's where the credibility issue is going to stem from. for as long as this continues.
I also take the point that just winning games isn't a strategy, Keith. Because you can't just go to that, win a game. If you don't get
No, but you set up a team to beat to give it its optimum chance of winning a game of football, man.
If you don't get a level of performance, the results catch up with you eventually. It always does. It always does. Winning games means if you're scratching games week in, week out, that'll bite you eventually. It's players. It is down to players and playing them in the best positions possible. That gets you the performance, which gets you the results over a longer period of time. So I get all that, but I totally agree that you have to play to what you've got. As I said this afternoon on a podcast, like, I mean, maybe my pong shop for wearing high heel shoes, but I'm not squeezing my size 11s into a pair of size 4 strappy sandals. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't work. I mean, I'm going to trip up and fall over.
It's a weird twist, Mick.
Well, I did it again this afternoon. I thought I'd roll that one out again.
I enjoyed it, Ellen. It was good to hear it again.
Are we insight into the secret life of Michael?
No thanks. No thanks.
Well, we've got a night out this week, Keith. You might get a chance to see these size 11s.
Before we round up on that, Marzuno.
But listen, just one last thing, though, Dan. Right. So you're sitting down, and this is the world that Paul Tisdale and Rangers had Kevin Thirlwell, and I happen to know that when they were having the interview process at Rangers, Barry Ferguson, Record Sport columnist, was obviously giving an interview, and there was this kind of Rule 101. What's your philosophy? What's your playing style? What does it look like? What's the strategy? What's your side going to look like every week? What's the style of play? And I think Barry Ferguson said to Kevin Thirlwell, "Look, Kev, I'm actually going to be different from that. I want to be flexible. I won't have an identifiable style, because one week I'll look at what the opposition is and I'll make changes. I'll make so." And one of the key parts of that being as well, that every manager that you come up against has got no way of knowing what's coming next. Because if you're a manager that changes things here and there, what I'm saying is how predictable it becomes when you're one guy, you've got one way of doing it, and it's the old Mark Warburton plan B is do plan A just better. When everybody knows what it is that they're going to come up against, what Celtic side looks like under Wilfred Nancy, then they don't have to do a great deal of planning for tactically how are we going to play this, what if they do this, what if they do that. They know exactly what they're going to get, and most of them, the managers in this country, know how to put a team up against that system to exploit it. So, I don't understand this fascination with you've got to have a principle, you've got to have a philosophy, you've got to have a style of play. It didn't really ever need to be that complicated, and that's why I go back to it, Mick. Assess what group you've got, assess the talent at your disposal, and then mould it into a formation that'll maximise its potential to win games of football. Forget philosophies.
Yeah,
for the birds.
Yeah, listen, I think you can have your own style and input over a period of time. But Celtic have been built for 4-3-3 for 5 years, and at the moment you say buy a right winger, buy 2 strikers, maybe another right back in January, and you probably get by because it's set up that way. You've got 3 or 4 left wingers, all right, if they're any good or not, they still can play left wing. You can play Dyson Maida there. 2 strikers, a right winger, and another right back gets you through. Probably, I mean that's oversimplifying it, but that's the kind of minimum requirement. This new setup might require 4, 5, 6 guys who's in that team. And Celtic's hit rate for signings in the last 3 windows isn't high enough to get 6 good first team players. They'll need to sign about 26 players in the current hit rate.
And then if you go all in as well, Mick, and say we're going to build a team for this 3-4-3 and it doesn't quite work out, then just stuck with a squad that's
the thing. There's no easy solution for Celtic right now apart from seatbelt on and crash helmet on and see what happens.
In the comments before we finish, David says, Mick, it is awesome analogies. And Marzuno says, please take Yang and Taneke to the Savoy the next time you're going there, Mick. Show them how to tackle low-quality talent.
Yeah.
Which I thought was... I know, I mean... Sorry, I couldn't help but slide that in at the end. And just to go back to Rangers, Miovski is not fit. Chermiti starts up front for tonight's game against Hibs. And just before we finish, Stuart Kettlewell, Keith, sacked at Kilmarnock, 10 league games without a victory, second bottom in the league, just 3 points ahead of Livingston, who've got a game in hand. It's not nice to see anyone lose their job, but it kind of feels like it was coming.
what is that? Is it not 2 points from the last 30 available?
I think you're not far off if that's not
It's
right.
2 draws. It was 2 draws.
Yeah.
That's just not sustainable, and I'm sure that Stuart Kettlewell would know that himself. And you saw the frustration starting to boil over when he was sent to the stand recently for lashing out a water bottle. It was heading in that direction. Even when things looked as if they might take an upward turn at Pittodrie, when Kilmarnock get in front, they end up losing that. And yeah, I think it was inevitable in the end. And they're sitting there, they're second bottom. And Billy Bowie is rightly very proud of all the achievements that Kilmarnock have made under his stewardship there. I don't think he could sit there in the best of faith and just hope that it was going to go right. I think he had to step into it and take action.
Can't really say fair on that, Mick, can you?
No, it's a shame. I like Stuart Kettlewell as a guy and as a coach.
Yeah.
I think he had a really good start at Kilmarnock. Could have been even better. There were a lot of draws in there at the start as well. They were unbeaten for a while, and I thought it was going pretty well. But it obviously turned over the last kind of 8, 9, 10 games. It's hard for him because I don't think he wasn't that popular a choice with Kilmarnock fans at first. It was a bit of a hard sell for them. I think Kilmarnock had a run of managers. I mean McInnes and obviously Steve Clarke, and they were kind of used. They got themselves used to kind of maybe a certain level of manager, and I don't think they felt, rightly or wrongly, that I don't think he kind of was a sexy enough name for them. So he's up against it from the start, and the results start to go. The punters start to turn. And listen, Billy Bowie would be loath to make that kind of change. He likes to back his managers. He's a brilliant owner. But when the punters are gone, when things aren't on the slide, it's a difficult one, isn't it? It's a shame, but it maybe was inevitable after the run they've been on.
Absolutely. I think that brings to the end of Monday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thank you so much for all the comments as ever. Fantastic as usual. Mick, Keith, it's always a pleasure.
Oh, good done. And we'll do it all again tomorrow then, won't we? Before the Record Sport Christmas night out, Michael, yep, and we get to see mixed stilettos and everything.
I'm going to go to the shoe shop in the morning.
Don't pretend you've got plenty of pairs upstairs. Don't worry.
I know, to facilitate this fetish.
That's how about my wellies.
On that note, I'll leave you with that image. Thank you very much for watching at home. We'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Hope you can join us then. Cheers.